You're listening to the Sound Words STL podcast.
Hello, this is John Fleming for SoundWordsSTL.com. I'm delighted to be joined by Grammy-winning singer-songwriter Michelle Branch about a little less than 2 hours before her concert at St. Louis's Delmar Hall. First of all, Michelle, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right, I guess we'll just jump straight into talking about the tour, album, all of that good stuff. Now, your early solo work drew a lot from like adult contemporary, sort of a pop rock sound, and then after those first couple major label albums came out, you went with the records, you had sort of a country stage, and now this new stage, for anyone who hasn't listened to the new album, which first of all everybody should. If you haven't listened to Hopeless Romantic, you should listen to that one. But anyone who hasn't listened to it may be surprised by what they hear if they haven't been prepped for it. I know I sure was whenever I heard it the first time. It's more of like a garage rock, kind of more pure alternative rock, sort of in the conventional sense as people know it. Do you consider Hopeless Romantic an extension of your previous work, or is this just a completely different direction altogether for you?
I see it as an extension, and I think for fans that maybe were fans of the records or fans who listened to my earlier stuff, I think being a songwriter is what bridges the gap between the three projects. When you strip down the songs at the end of the day, it's very much, even though the album might be a little bit heavier production-wise, it's very much Michelle Branch music. I love writing about relationships, and a lot of my early stuff was love songs and songs about relationships, but this record is that with some actual life experience under my belt. But I feel like those early records, when I went in to work with John Shanks on the Spirit Room, if you heard some of my demos that I went in with, there's a song, I think it might even be on Spotify, that you can find called Paper Pieces, that was on my demo, and it was like literally garage rock. I mean, the production is terrible because it was a demo that I made with my friends, but I always loved and always wanted to make a rock record like this. So I think John's stuff, production-wise, was rock, but it was just really slick in its presentation, and I think it was, due to the fact that it was 2001 and I was a teenage girl and signed to a major label. So this was I was really excited that I finally got to work with Patrick and do something that was a little bit more closer to what I listened to, like on my own time.
Okay, and do you consider this to be a more personal album, or do you think it's just a reflection on not being a teenager anymore, and therefore it's just sort of what you're feeling right now, and then what you were doing years ago was what you felt at that point?
This album is immensely personal. I started writing this album at a very strange time in my life. I was newly 30 and had just been finally dropped from my record label from Warner Brothers, which I'd been on since I was 16. And then I was newly getting divorced out of an 11-year relationship. So started dating again for the first time and wondering like what was going on with my life and what my next step was going to be. And that's when I started writing this album. So these songs are so personal compared to songs off my first record. Some of those songs I wrote when I was 14 or 15, and it was about what I thought grown-up love was. And now these songs were obviously coming from a totally different place.
They're more reflection on your own experiences with it rather than what you imagined it would
be.
Gotcha. Yeah. You mentioned before working with Patrick Carney, who people who may not realize that he's in your band, he's also known for being the drummer for the Black Keys. What was it like working with him on this album? It
was amazing. I was a big fan of his prior to working, and I was really excited. I didn't really know how it would go when we first agreed to work together, because it's always kind of such a crapshoot of you can love someone's music separately and get along, but you never know till you're in the studio. And I think from the moment we started working, it was just easy and incredibly inspiring. Our friend Gus Seyffert co-produced the album with us at his house in LA, and it was like this 100-year-old Victorian house, and he has a ton of vintage gear, and it was really self-contained. It was just like the three of us playing everything together. And I think the biggest thing that Patrick kind of brought to the to this stage was he really when we went to go, I think it was recording a song on the record called Fault Line, I was like belting it, and he was like, you don't have to sing it so hard. Maybe you should sing it a little softer. And the way that I approached the vocals on this album were very different to how I had recorded in the past. And John Shanks was always having me like sing full voice and belting stuff, which is more of like a pop performance, I guess. And Patrick was like, no, let's make it like conversational and let's get into the vocals and try to figure it out. And I think that to me was like the biggest thing he brought to the table that's probably stands out the most.
And do you feel like at this point in your career you have more control over the direction that your career takes? Obviously, when you were starting out as a teenager, the music industry is not really known for being willing to cede a lot of creative control voluntarily.
I think it's twofold. I think it was my age and also, unfortunately, being female. It's a cliche because it's true. I mean, the record business is a very tricky place to navigate as a young female. There were many times when I was told I needed to get a choreographer and not play guitar, and they wanted me with certain writers or producers, or wear this in your video, and it was really hard to stay true to what my vision was. And I was always kind of like this had a rebellious streak of, no, I'm not going to do that. This isn't what I want to do. So I don't know. Fortunately, that served me well, but it was definitely hard to kind of stay true to the path. And I think being a writer made it easier. Had I not been a writer, I think I would have been put in a lot of different situations where I'd be working with people making music that I wasn't necessarily able to lead, as if that makes any sense. But yeah, I think I definitely have more control now, and I'm on a different record label now, and I'm 34, and I'm a little more confident about saying no to things and standing up to stuff. So it's been a learning process for me, for sure.
All right. Michelle Branch, it was a pleasure talking with you. Hopeless Romantic, as I mentioned before, it's out now, and if anyone hasn't listened to it, maybe they aren't familiar with the turn it takes, it should be a very interesting listen. You'll probably enjoy it, but if you're not going to enjoy it, you're at least going to be intrigued by it. I'm assure anybody that. Where can people find the album? Where would be the best place for you?
Well, I'm so excited. This is the first album I've ever had out on vinyl. I've never pressed any of my other records on vinyl, so if you are a purist, you can get the record on vinyl. And it's also on, iTunes, Spotify. You can buy the CD. I don't know where you buy CDs anymore. I don't even have a CD player at my house except for my car. But I primarily listen to vinyl or Spotify or iTunes. So it's basically everywhere you find music.
All right. Shouldn't be too hard to find. So everybody, you have a homework assignment.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Soundwords STL podcast.